Harambe YouTube, it is Charles here, and welcome to another edition of Wrestle Ramble, where I ramble about some wrestling that just happened, give you my thoughts on it. And this is going to be short but sweet. I want to say thank you to who I believe the MVP of AEW is, and that is Jon Moxley. Uh, he is a wrestler who, in his previous job, was frustrated because he couldn't do what he wanted to creatively. And when he went to AEW at the very beginning, it was a major name who was still young enough to carry the company. And he showed himself willing to be that guy. And I think one thing that's underrated is a guy who is not afraid to be hated. This channel is primarily about comic books. And if you watch my comic reviews, the most important thing that I always talk about is a comic has to have stakes. It has to have consequences that stick past one issue. And with Jon Moxley, when he came in, he was presented as ruthless, frustrated, and highly skilled. And he's been in the championship picture ever since, bringing validity and real stakes to that division. And when he started the Death Riders faction, he received a lot of hate because people were saying, well, he's just holding on to the title and he's hogging up the spotlight. And, he cheats all the time. But the thing about it is, he's willing to do something I think a lot of people aren't willing to do, and that's lose potential money. I hate to talk about wrestling like I'm an insider because I'm not. I'm just a fan. But everybody knows that when you're a quote unquote bad guy in professional wrestling, you don't sell as many t-shirts. You don't sell as many action figures. That's just what it is. And so you have guys that are willing to be the bad guy, but only on TV. They're willing to be a bad guy to a point. And that point is not going to affect their t-shirt sales. It's not going to affect their popularity. But with Jon Moxley, he just became more and more unlikable. And to top off what he did, as far as being presented as a major threat and a super skilled wrestler is something that I hadn't. It may have happened before, and you can let me know in the comments if it's happened, but I've seen bad guy wrestlers who surround themselves with a faction of other wrestlers because they're not quite up to par and they have to cheat. But the way Jon Moxley has been presented, he didn't have to cheat. He didn't need interference in his matches, but he did it anyway, just because. Which made him all that more dastardly when you compare him to the top bad guys in wrestling. It's not just the fact that he was elite and he was good, but now you know that when you have to fight him, you have to fight Pac, you have to fight Claudio, you have to fight Willa Yuta, you have to fight Marina Shafir, on top of a very dangerous Jon Moxley that can choke you out at any moment by himself. And what he has done by holding on to that championship so long and making it impossible to win is the person who wins it after him is going to be elevated and be beloved that much more. And I love the Death Riders. I love them as a faction. I love what they were doing. I got it from the beginning. And quite honestly, like, in a weird way, and I know I'm not supposed to because we're supposed to suspend our disbelief and root for the quote unquote good guys and boo the quote unquote bad guys. But I wanted to see Jon Moxley continue to hold the title and be an even bigger bad guy. But, it seemed like the right time and the right person. Hangman Page has been, he's a champion previously. and he has been doing nothing but getting more and more popular, stepping up his game in every department, and he is well deserving. And I am sure that Jon Moxley is going to be around and be a major tentpole of AEW for years to come, because he's very passionate about wrestling and about bringing people up, not just the people that he works with in his faction, but outside of that in real life, working against other people in order to raise their profile. And I don't know how true it is, but I saw somebody on Blue Sky that was actually at the show, and they posted it off camera after the match while Hangman Page was celebrating his championship win. Jon Moxley went over to Marina Shafir and kind of smiled, and said, "Look at this crowd, how happy they are." I don't know if that's true or not, but I feel like, yeah, because as dastardly and as evil and unlikable as Jon Moxley is, people don't see that as a sacrifice, financial sacrifice, but it is, and he did it gleefully. And when it was time to pass the torch, he did it willingly. So thank you, Jon Moxley, for adding stakes to professional wrestling and being the biggest bastard bad guy that I have seen in professional wrestling since Triple H, to be honest with you. So you guys be easy, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep watching that wrestling. I'm going to. I'm out.